Namaste. Welcome to the course of Mental Health and Wellbeing. This is the module 3 of the course, Life Skills for Transition and Resilience. This is the lecture 4 of this module. Here we are going to talk about conflict resolution skills. In our previous lectures, we have talked about resilience, we have talked about time management and goal settings, we have talked about emotional management. Now, this time, we are going to talk about a skill which is necessary for the transition to a college life. This skill is conflict resolution skill. So this is a very interesting topic, that why we are talking about conflict in general. This skill is more important because when you are transiting into a college life, you usually travel out of your home and you go to diverse places. You go to maybe very far places from your home, and such as many other students come from diverse spaces and they come from with a diverse background, and hence their personality, their background are very different from one another. When such things happen, then conflict arises. This is called as interpersonal conflicts. Why conflict resolution matters? So many students, when they come from a background, maybe they have siblings at their home, so they are used to having conflicts at home. You understand how to negotiate between the siblings, how to compromise. You are comfortable with sharing your environment. But many students or many individuals, they come from a different background. They are not very equipped with sharing. They do not like being in the shared spaces. So this results in conflict. So conflict resolution is a natural part of life. College life is a hotspot for interpersonal conflict. So skillful resolution promotes mental health, relationship and productivity. So this not only improves our relationship but also boosts our mental well-being and productivity. Let's define conflict clearly. Conflict occurs when there is a clash of interest, goals, or values. Conflict come in many forms. It is intrapersonal, interpersonal, and intragroup. Intrapersonal conflict would mean something like a dilemma within yourself. Like you have an approach avoidance conflict. Like, should I do this thing? Should I do the other thing? And you are like, should I go there? Should I go there? In that way, you have a conflict within yourself. It's an intrapersonal conflict. Interpersonal conflict, when it is between two people, like maybe between roommates or maybe between friends, maybe between club members. And intergroup conflict would mean where a bigger part of a group or a bigger part of a community are fighting with each other. So these are the three major categories of conflicts. Recognizing the type of conflict is first step towards resolution. That's why when we are able to identify it is intrapersonal, interpersonal or intergroup conflict, then this is the first step towards resolution. So here is a possible map of why the conflict happened between students. So first thing that we are going to talk about here is difference in personality. Supposedly one person is a very structured individual in a room, like they want to plan things very in a detailed manner, while as maybe their friend or their roommate is a very unstructured person. They like to do things spontaneously. So this results a conflict in personality, a difference in personality, which is a possible route for conflict. Next thing can be competing goals or priorities. Supposedly both of the people or many of your people are going towards a competing goal, such as a maths exam or a maths quiz is there, and you are being prohibited from cheating, or you are being asked not to ask questions from each other. So people do not share notes with each other, or they want to keep whatever they are reading or their source of notes very private. So they are competing for the same goal. Whoever gets the highest marks maybe gets some promotion or some rewards. In that way, to get that, they are competing towards the same goal, and this causes the root of the conflict. Another thing can be limited resources. Supposedly in the lab environment, or supposedly in the library, very limited books are there, or that kind of a topic which is most common, then limited resources are available. In that way, again, the conflict is arising. Same can go for hostel rooms. So maybe, for example, maybe in a room just one fan is there. So it's a limited resources and you are sharing two beds, then who will put their bed near the fan or under the fan, or maybe one cooler is there, or maybe one window is there. So this goes to limited resources, then this is again a possible root of conflict. Unclear roles and responsibilities. Unclear roles and responsibilities mean like you have not communicated properly that what is my role here. So this can example can include between a group, supposedly you are part of a group or a team, and the responsibilities are not shared clearly. In that way, the roles are not clear and you do not end up doing it. So at the end, it's a confused state that who is doing what. So that can result in conflict. Perceived inequality or favoritism. Sometimes we assume that our boss or our teachers are favoring some another student. So this can result in another conflict. This can produce jealousy in students, or you can again be very very cautious of what that person is doing, what that teacher is saying, or what that club member is saying. So in that way, perceived inequality or favoritism can cause to conflict. Boundary violations, such as, this is another topic. Boundary violation would mean where your personal space or personal boundary is affected by someone other's actions. Sometimes one person may make a personal remark regarding you, in a way violating your own personal boundary, your respect, or they can actually take up your space. This is very common in hostel rooms, where it is a shared space and someone might come and sit on your bed or take your book or take any of your belongings for some time without asking you. In IIT Kanpur, this is very common for cycles. So, people borrow each other's cycles very frequently. So, in that way, your personal boundary, your personal space, or personal objects are borrowed very frequently by one another, and this might result in a possible root of conflict. Social media misunderstanding. So this is another very very Gen Z type of conflict that keeps arising nowadays. So people like to text each other rather than call and clarifying messages. So what happens in social media, that people might misinterpret others meaning, what they are saying, what they want to say, and this can again result in conflict. Cultural and background differences, this is one of the major root for conflict happen in college. Here intergroup peoples are there. Supposedly one people is highly religious while other is an atheist. So this can result again where one person's practice rituals are again mocked, or maybe not as well respected as they would want them to be by another people. So this happens in college a lot. Maybe some person's language, because of their cultural or their heritage or from where they belong, is again not very, maybe someone's language from their cultural diversity is an issue for someone else. However, this person is not meaning to harm that person, but that's how he or she speaks, and this can again result in conflict. Academic pressure and stress is a background that can cause, because you are mostly remaining stressed because of the academic pressure that you are taking, and you do not have time to properly communicate what you would want others to do, and you are taking a lot of the stress because of academics, then this can again result in conflict. The lastly is poor communication. Poor communication, as you would see, was a part of all of this, starting from difference in personality, limited resources. So poor communication is one of the basic foundation where conflict arises and conflict continues. If you are not very clear with your communication, then conflict will continue and the resolution would not happen. So poor communication is one of the major foundation where conflict keeps happening. Another possible roots of conflicts are emotional triggers, such as your anger, insecurity, ego, hurt, or possession. Some cognitive distortions where you're misinterpreting the situation, maybe you're mind reading or catastrophizing the situation. Some attribution errors where you're misunderstanding others' intentions. So, cognitive distortion here would mean where you're mind reading. Mind reading means, a very classical example would be like, supposedly, I'm friends with someone and I'm passing them in a corridor and I say hi to them. And what happens is they do not hi me back. And then I'm mind reading that they do not like me, or they hate me, or they do not like this aspect of me, or they are angry with me, that's why they have not hired me back. So this is mind reading. So it's a form of a cognitive distortion where your perspective of the situation is distorted. Here we understand that the other person might have not replied back to your hi because they might have not seen it. This is the most possible explanation that can come out of the situation, rather taking it personally, that this is because of your attribution or your quality that they do not like you. Think of conflict resolution as a problem solving skill. In a way, you have a problem with you and now you need to solve it. So you cannot solve a puzzle without seeing all its pieces. So below are the steps that are going to help you in resolving conflict peacefully, and this can lead from chaos to clarity. So the first step is identifying the conflict, where you identify the actual issue. Understanding all the perspective. We are all very biased towards our own perspective. We want to see the situation from our own angle, but understanding all the perspective will help resolve conflict. Communicating openly, not aggressively. Here, assertive communication are welcome. Generate multiple solutions, that what is possible. This is a problem solving approach, that what can be done in this situation to resolve the conflict. Then fifth step is to negotiate or to agree on a solution. Here compromising and negotiation skills are required, where you generate a solution and you stick on to it, and then follow up to see if the conflict resolution that you have applied, if it is working or not. So this is a step by step process that encourages clarity, empathy and fairness. So let's look at a classic student conflict: messy roommates. One roommate never cleans up. Avoiding the issue might build resentment, but discussing it calmly, explaining your feelings, hearing their side of the story, and deciding on a cleaning rules together by communicating them clearly can restore peace. So using the steps that we discussed just above, identifying the conflict, understanding it, communicating openly, generating multiple solution, finding a negotiable solution and following up can help us resolve this situation. As we have discussed, communication is the key in resolving conflict. So many conflict worsen because we don't listen, we reply to wait. So, practicing active listening. Active listening would mean that you are not just hearing the topic. So, there is a difference between hearing and listening. Hearing, that you hear any sound that is there in your background, but listening is you're listening to it, you're hearing it, and you're using your understanding, your mental wisdom to what the other person is meaning, what they want to try to say. In listening, we also say that we just not listen from our ears, but then we listen from our eyes as well, where we are seeing what the other person is saying, and we are just focusing on their non-verbal behaviors. What is their facial expression, how they are, talking about it, what is the tone of their language. This again helps us to understand what the other person is saying. So this can be considered under active listening and opening yourself to the non-verbal cues. The other thing is the assertive communication. In assertive communication, we are not very passive nor we are very aggressive. We are assertive. What does that mean? That our needs and interests are not lower to the other person, and our needs and interest and expression are not above the other person, but we are on the same platform as them. So here we use I statement, such as instead of blaming other person that you did this to me, you are making me feel like this, we understand and take responsibility of our own emotions and our own actions. So assertive communication starts with an I statement, that I am feeling upset because I found my room dirty and this is non-negotiable for me. So using a statement like this, you're not blaming the other person, but you're taking responsibility of your actions and you're starting the statement with I statements. The next thing that you need to do in assertive communication is whatever you want the other person to do, you state that. Whatever is the corrective action you want in others' behavior, you state that very clearly. Supposedly, in assertive communication, you say that I am feeling upset because when I entered the room, it was all dirty. I would want you to pick up your clothes and keep it in the laundry basket from next time. Is that possible for you? Here, what we are doing is we are not charging the other person too heavily, or we are not being passive with our request and demands. Where we are expressing what we want from the other person using an I statement, expressing our feelings, and also expressing what the correct behavior we want from others. So, lastly, in assertive communication, another component that is required is empathy. So, empathy here is that we are not neglecting the other person's wishes, other person needs, and other person's emotions. So, we are trying to find that why the other person is making the actions which are hurtful towards you. We are empathizing with their situation as well. Supposedly, in this example for room, we find out the other person was very stressed, or they have an exam coming or something like that. So you can use that in your assertive communication. Hey, I understand that your exam is coming, but I felt very upset when I entered the room and I found it very dirty. What I would want you to do is, after your exam is over, please help me clearing the room. So, in this statement, again, we are not blaming anyone. We are empathizing the person. We are doing compromising, that we are waiting till the other person exam to be over. In that way, this is a negotiable element for us, and we do not blame the other person. We help and find the solution together clearly. The role of mediation and the third parties. So, mediation is a structured process in which a neutral third party, mediator, helps two or more people in conflict to reach a mutually agreeable solution. So, when it is needed? It is needed when direct conversation between the conflicting parties has failed, when emotions are too high to communicate constructively, when a neutral environment is needed to talk things out. So let's understand this with an example. So, an example that two club members are arguing over leadership decisions and using personal criticism in the statements they are giving to each another. They are unable to resolve it among themselves, and this is causing more conflict rather than resolution. So, one of the faculty advisors steps in as a mediator. They give each of these person an uninterrupted time to speak, helping them reflect, guiding them towards an agreement to share responsibility and respect boundaries. The role of the mediator is encouraging open communication, ensuring fairness and neutrality, guiding without taking sides. So, if you can see in this example, the image that we used in the last slide was shaking hands. Here, a mediator is required where two parties are giving personal comments, or they are not able to come to a conflict resolution on their own. So, mediator is the third person, that is a neutral person who is fair to both of them, and he give them the space to communicate openly and at the end find a conflict. And this mediator is also responsible that whatever responsibilities these two parties have taken, these responsibilities are done by these parties, and these are fairly done by these parties. So at the end of such meeting, a mediator will make sure that these parties will shake their hands, come to a conflict resolution, and follow what has been discussed. Another strategy that we miss in conflict resolution is understanding others' perspective. We judge others without knowing the full pictures. By making an effort to understand the other person's perspective, their background, their pressure, their emotions, we reduce the blame, open the doors to collaboration. Understanding different perspective would mean seeing the situation from someone else's viewpoint, including their background, feelings, motivation, and even their constraints into the picture. Why it matters? It matters because it reduces the judgment and misinterpretation. It builds empathy and respect. It opens spaces for creative solution. We can understand this by using an example. A student believes that their group teammate is lazy for not finishing their part on time. On discussing with them, they discover that the teammate is dealing with some genuine personal problems. This shift in perspectively transforms blames into understanding and cooperation. So, the strategies required to practice this skill will include asking, what might they be feeling right now? This is empathetic question. Practicing active listening without planning your reply. Rephrasing what the other person says to confirm understanding. So, in this example, as we see, what happens is in a group, one person is not doing enough work, one person is not putting enough than what the other teammates are putting up. So, rather than avoiding the conflict, rather than avoiding being communicated, the other team members approach this person and they ask, why are you not able to do the work? And when they found out the reason, they are able to shift their perspective. Earlier, the perspective was coming from a blame angle, that we are doing more and this person is doing less. But now, when we understand the situation from their side, their perspective, then we understand that why they are doing what they are doing. So we empathizes with them, we openly communicated with them, and we practice active listening. Active listening is when we are not preparing the answer before we are giving a reply. Supposedly the other person is talking, then in our mind we are not saying that this person said this, then I will say this, I will say this. I'm just patiently hearing whatever they want to say. So, shifting the perspective, another very simple or a genuine example can be considered like that. Supposedly, there is a box, and the box from your side it's colored from red, and the box from the other side is colored from blue. Then you would say, oh, this is a red box. Whereas the person standing in front of you will say, no, this is a blue box. So, when you are very rigid with your ideas, you're not very flexible with them, then you would not be able to see the things from others' perspective. But when you change your position, when you go there where they are standing right now, you would understand it's a multicolored box. It looks blue from the other side, it looks red from this side, and that's why the confusion or the conflict arises. So this is the shifting the perspective as a strategy would help in understanding why the other person is reacting in a way that led to the conflict. Developing compromise and negotiation skills. So, compromise we understand as finding a middle ground where both sides give up something to reach a solution. And negotiation we understand as a dialogue aimed at reaching an agreement while preserving relationship. So, conflict resolution isn't about winning, it's about compromise and negotiation. Each person should give a little out to find a common ground. It's about knowing what is negotiable and what is not negotiable, what's not, and discussing these negotiable and non negotiables very calmly. So, this is vital for student teams, roommates, and friendship. Why is it important in a student's life? Because it promotes teamwork, it reduces tension, it is useful in roommate issues, club responsibilities, and project planning. One of the example we can look here is two roommates disagree over when the light should be off at the night. So one prefers to study it late while the other needs to sleep early. After negotiation, they agree that one will study in the lounge after 11 p.m. on weekdays, while the other will use earplugs or sleep mask on the weekends. Both compromised to meet halfway. So you can see the image that we used here is an image of a balance, where maybe the balance goes one side heavy, then at some time it goes other side heavy, but in average when you accumulate it is both are balanced in a way. So one roommate is compromising their study on the weekends, the other is compromising on the weekdays. In that way, or maybe at the 11 p.m. they have set a deadline, so in that way overall the situation is balanced. Here we also need to know our non-negotiable versus flexible areas using I statement, assertive communication, such as using a line that I feel distracted when lights are on. I cannot sleep that time. Aim for a win-win rather than a win-lose situation. To summarize, in this lecture, we talked about why conflict resolution matters, why it is an inevitable ground in college life, understanding different types of conflict, possible roots of conflict, conflict resolution step, using conflict as a problem solving skill rather than getting too much emotional about the problems. And this is the same we discussed in lecture 3 of the series, emotional regulation skills, and where we use communication skills for conflict resolution, the role of mediation and the third party. Supposedly you realize that you are not able to resolve conflict on your own, you take the help of a mediator or a third party to resolve the conflict, come to a common ground, understanding different perspective, and developing compromising and negotiation skills to resolve conflict peacefully. I hope these techniques help you in your transition to college life. Thank you.